You need to move now! I can tell just by looking at you this isn't your seat. The voice cut through Gate 47 at Chicago O'Hare like a knife. Flight attendant Jessica Martinez stood inches from a black man's face, her finger jabbing aggressively toward the back of the terminal. Are you deaf? I said move to the back where you belong. Terrence Washington, 42, stood calmly in his jeans and hoodie. He didn't flinch as Jessica's voice echoed off the walls, didn't raise his voice back. A young woman nearby quickly started her Instagram live. Y'all, this flight attendant is literally screaming at this man for no reason. Have you ever been screamed at in public for simply existing in a space where someone decided you didn't belong? Ma'am, may I please show you my boarding pass? Terrence's voice stayed level despite the public humiliation. Jessica's eyes flashed with irritation. I don't need to see anything! Security! Her voice boomed across the gate area. Passengers 3 gates away turned to stare. A mother instinctively covered her young daughter's ears. The Instagram live viewer count climbed steadily. At traveling. Tasha adjusted her phone angle to capture the full scene. 847 people watching now, she whispered to her camera. This is absolutely insane. Jessica stepped closer to Terrence, invading his personal space. Her finger jabbed repeatedly toward the economy section. He won't listen? People like you always try to scam the system. Gate agent Monica Lane hurried over from the check-in counter. She'd heard Jessica's shouting from 30 feet away. What's the situation here? This man is trying to board first class, Jessica announced loudly, making sure everyone could hear. He clearly doesn't belong there. Monica glanced at Terrence, taking in his casual attire, jeans, worn sneakers, a simple hoodie. She'd seen this situation before. People sometimes tried to upgrade themselves without authorization. Sir, there seems to be a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Jessica interrupted, her voice growing shriller. Look at him. Does he look like he belongs in first class? The question hung in the air like toxic smoke. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Some pulled out their phones to record. Others looked away, embarrassed by the public spectacle. Terrence remained perfectly still. His breathing stayed even. His hands relaxed at his sides. Only his eyes moved, quietly observing the growing crowd of witnesses. His phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. The caller ID flashed, Boeing Executive Office. He declined the call without looking. Security is on the way, Jessica announced triumphantly. They'll sort this out real quick. Officer Rodriguez appeared within 2 minutes, his hand resting casually on his radio. He was a 20-year veteran of airport security. He'd seen every type of passenger dispute imaginable. What's the problem here? His eyes immediately focused on Terrence, the assumption clear in his posture. Finally, Jessica exhaled dramatically. This man is trying to board first class illegally. I've told him 3 times to move to economy. Rodriguez nodded, pulling out his notepad. Sir, may I see your identification and boarding pass? Of course. Terrence reached slowly into his portfolio, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. Jessica rolled her eyes theatrically. He probably has a fake ticket. I've seen this before. The Instagram live comments were exploding now. At traveling. Tasha read them aloud quietly. Why is she yelling at him? This is disgusting. Someone needs to help that man. The viewer count hit 1,140 and climbing. Monica finally got a clear look at Terrence's boarding pass. Her eyes widened slightly. Seat 2A. First class. Premium cabin. The ticket was legitimate. Jessica, she said carefully, his boarding pass shows. I don't care what it shows. What it? Jessica's voice cracked from the strain. Anyone can print a fake boarding pass. Look at how he's dressed. A businessman in an expensive suit shook his head in disgust. This is absolutely unprofessional, he muttered, loud enough for others to hear. Jessica spun around, her face flushed red. Mind your own business. The man held up his phone. I am. I'm recording this for United Airlines customer service. More phones appeared. The gate area buzzed with quiet conversations and clicking cameras. What had started as one woman's Instagram Live was now being documented by dozens of witnesses. Officer Rodriguez examined Terrence's boarding pass more carefully. The barcode looked authentic. The seat assignment was clearly printed, but he'd learned to trust the airline staff's judgment. Sir, the flight attendant says there's been some kind of error. Exactly, Jessica jumped in. An error. He doesn't belong in first class. The terminal announcement crackled overhead. Flight 1847 to Seattle now boarding all passengers. All passengers. Flight 1847. 8 minutes until final boarding, Monica announced, trying to inject some urgency into the situation. Jessica's confidence grew with each passing minute. She'd handled situations like this before. Passengers trying to sneak into premium cabins happened more often than people realized. Her job was to protect the integrity of the cabin classes. I've been doing this job for 12 years, she announced to the growing crowd. I know trouble when I see it. Terrence's phone buzzed again. This time the caller ID read, CEO Thompson, Boeing. He declined again, his expression unchanged. An elderly white woman sitting nearby stood up slowly. Excuse me, dear, she addressed Jessica directly. Perhaps you could just check his ticket more carefully instead of making such a scene. Jessica's head snapped toward the woman. Ma'am, I know how to do my job. Clearly you don't, a college student muttered from his seat. The tension in the gate area was becoming palpable. Passengers were choosing sides. Some supported Jessica's vigilance. Others were appalled by her behavior. 7 minutes to final boarding, Monica repeated, her voice strained. Officer Rodriguez studied Terrence's identification. Dr. Terrence Washington, he read aloud. Are you a medical doctor, sir? Among other things, Terrence replied quietly. Jessica scoffed loudly. Anyone can call themselves doctor. I bet he bought that fake ID online. The Instagram Live viewer count had reached 2,300. Comments poured in from across the country. Past United discrimination began trending on Twitter. Monica tried one more time to de-escalate. Jessica, perhaps we should— No! Jessica's voice echoed through the terminal. I'm not backing down. This man does not belong in first class, and I'm not letting him board until security sorts this out. She crossed her arms defiantly, blocking the boarding bridge entrance. Her face was flushed with righteous indignation. She was doing her job, protecting her airline, standing up for policy and procedure. 6 minutes to final boarding. The standoff was complete. Supervisor Karen Williams strode toward Gate 47 with purpose. She'd received an urgent radio call about a passenger disturbance that was getting out of hand. As she approached, Jessica's voice reached her first. He's being difficult. I told him to move. Karen surveyed the scene quickly. 50-plus passengers formed a loose circle around the commotion. Multiple phone recordings. Security involved. This was exactly the kind of situation that ended up on the evening news. What's going on here? Karen's voice carried the authority of 15 years in airline management. Jessica immediately launched into her explanation. This man is trying to scam his way into first class. I've been telling him for 10 minutes that he needs to move to economy. Karen, thank God! Jessica's relief was obvious. I've been handling this alone, and he won't listen. Karen looked at Terrence, taking in his appearance with a quick professional assessment. Casual clothing, calm demeanor, no obvious signs of intoxication or aggression. But Jessica was one of her most experienced flight attendants. Sir, I'm Karen Williams, the gate supervisor. I understand there's some confusion about your seating assignment? Before Terrence could respond, Jessica interrupted. There's no confusion. Look at him. Does he look like someone who can afford first class? The Instagram Live viewer count had exploded to 3,047. @traveling Tasha could barely keep up with the comments streaming across her screen. "This is insane," she whispered to her followers. "The supervisor just showed up and she's taking the flight attendant's side." Comments poured in. "This is discrimination. Someone call the news. Why won't they just look at his ticket?" A young TikTok creator positioned himself for a better angle. His followers were already asking for updates. This was the kind of content that went viral within hours. 5 minutes to the final boarding call, Monica announced, her voice tight with stress. She kept glancing between her computer screen and the growing crowd. Karen made her decision quickly. In her experience, passengers who caused this much disruption usually had something to hide. Jessica's instincts were typically spot on. "Sir, if you can't provide adequate proof of your seat assignment, I'm going to have to ask you to either purchase a first-class upgrade or take your assigned economy seat." "Finally!" Jessica's voice cracked with vindication. "Someone with sense!" Officer Rodriguez shifted his weight, hand moving closer to his radio. The crowd was getting larger, more agitated. He'd seen situations like this spiral quickly. An elderly businessman stood up from his seat nearby. "Excuse me, this is ridiculous. The man has shown you his boarding pass multiple times." Jessica wheeled around. "Sir, you don't work for the airline." "No, but I fly 200,000 miles a year, and I've never seen anything like this." The man held up his phone, making sure Jessica could see he was recording. "United is going to hear about this." "Go ahead!" Jessica screamed. "Call whoever you want. I'm doing my job." Karen felt the situation slipping from her control. Too many witnesses, too much attention. But backing down now would undermine Jessica's authority and potentially compromise security protocols. "Dr. Washington," Officer Rodriguez said, consulting his notepad, "can you explain how you obtained your boarding pass?" "I purchased it through my corporate travel account," Terrence replied evenly. "Same as I do every week." Jessica snorted loudly. "Corporate travel account? What corporation would send him first class?" A group of college students near the windows started their own live stream. One held up a sign reading, "This is wrong," toward the cameras. The businessman who'd defended Terrence earlier pulled out his laptop. "I'm posting this to LinkedIn right now. United Airlines needs to see how their employees treat passengers." "Post whatever you want!" Jessica's voice was becoming hoarse from yelling. "I'm not backing down!" Karen felt sweat building on her forehead. This was escalating beyond anything she'd handled before. But Jessica had been with the company for 12 years. She knew the policy. She knew the passengers. "Sir," Karen addressed Terrence directly, "I'm going to need you to either upgrade your ticket or move to your correct seat. This is causing a significant disruption." "Thank you!" Jessica practically shouted. "Finally, someone who understands!" Terrence's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up briefly. "Urgent, board meeting delayed." He declined the call without looking up. A mother with 2 young children approached Monica at the gate counter. "Is the flight going to be delayed? My kids have school tomorrow." "We're working to resolve this quickly," Monica replied, though her confidence was wavering. The TikTok creator started narrating for his followers. "So basically, this flight attendant has been screaming at this black man for 15 minutes because she doesn't think he belongs in first class." His comment section exploded with angry reactions and demands for justice. 4 minutes to final boarding," Monica announced, her voice barely audible over the commotion. Karen made what she thought was the safest decision. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to either purchase an upgrade to first class or take your assigned economy seat. If you refuse, we'll have no choice but to remove you from the flight." The crowd's reaction was immediate and mixed. Some passengers nodded approvingly. Others looked shocked and disgusted. "This is America in 2025, the elderly businessman said loudly. "Guilty until proven innocent, but only if you look a certain way." Jessica spun toward him again. "Race has nothing to do with this?" "Then why won't you look at his boarding pass?" a college student called out. "I did look. Anyone can fake a boarding pass." The Instagram live viewer count hit 5,200. Comments were coming so fast that Traveling Tasha couldn't read them all. United discrimination was trending nationwide. Officer Rodriguez radioed for backup. Gate 47 requesting additional security, crowd control situation. Karen felt the weight of dozens of cameras pointed at her. Every word she spoke was being broadcast live to thousands of people. But she'd made her decision. She had to support her employee. Dr. Washington, this is your final opportunity. Upgrade your ticket, move to economy, or we'll have you removed from the airport. Jessica crossed her arms triumphantly. Exactly, rules are rules. Rules are... Terrence stood quietly for a long moment. His portfolio sat slightly open beside him, revealing the corner of what looked like an official document. His phone buzzed one more time. This call, he answered. Hello, David. Yes, I'm still at the gate. His voice carried clearly through the suddenly quiet crowd. The board meeting? Yes, I know it's important. Boeing's largest contract renewal in 5 years. Jessica's triumphant expression began to falter slightly. I'll be there soon. Just dealing with a small issue with United's, customer service policies. Karen felt a chill run down her spine. Something in his tone. Something in the way he said Boeing. 3 minutes to final boarding, Monica whispered, though everyone heard her. The crowd pressed closer, sensing a shift in the dynamic. Phones raised higher. The live streams focused tighter. Terrence ended his call and looked directly at Karen for the first time. Ma'am, I think there's been a significant misunderstanding. Terrence reached into his portfolio with deliberate calm. The crowd leaned forward collectively, phones capturing every movement. Jessica stood with her arms crossed, confident in her righteousness. Here's my identification, Terrence said quietly, pulling out what looked like a standard ID badge. Karen took it, expecting to see a driver's license or passport. Instead, her eyes fell on something that made her blood freeze. The badge was navy blue with silver lettering. At the top, Boeing Commercial Airplanes Division. Below that, a professional photo of Terrence in a business suit. And underneath, Dr. Terrence Washington, Senior Vice President, Strategic Partnerships. Karen's hand trembled slightly. She read it again, hoping her eyes were deceiving her. They weren't. Oh my God, she whispered. The color drained from her face so quickly that Monica noticed from across the gate area. Officer Rodriguez leaned over to see what had caused Karen's reaction. His expression changed instantly. 20 years of airport security, and he'd never seen anything like this. Jessica, still riding high on her perceived victory, noticed their reactions. See? I told you it was fake. Anyone can make a fake ID. Jessica, Karen's voice came out as barely a whisper. This is real. What do you mean, real? Jessica laughed harshly. Look at him. He's probably unemployed. Karen held up the badge with shaking hands. He's a senior vice president at Boeing. The words hit the crowd like a physical blow. The Instagram live comments exploded so fast they became a blur. Traveling Tasha's viewer count shot past 8,000 in seconds. What? Jessica's voice cracked. That's impossible! Monica Lane felt her stomach drop. Boeing was United's primary aircraft supplier, the company that literally built the planes they flew every day. And Jessica had been screaming at one of their executives for 15 minutes. Ma'am, Officer Rodriguez said to Jessica, his tone completely changed. You need to step back. But Jessica was too deep in denial to process what was happening. He's lying! Anyone can buy a fake Boeing badge online. The elderly businessman who'd been recording started laughing quietly. Miss, you can't buy senior vice president credentials online. This is real. It can't be real! Jessica's voice was becoming shrill with panic. He doesn't dress like an executive. He doesn't act like an executive. And how exactly should an executive act? the businessman asked pointedly. Should he scream back at you? Should he demand special treatment? Or should he handle discrimination with the kind of dignity we just witnessed? Terrence opened his portfolio wider, revealing more documents. Official Boeing letterhead, meeting schedules, a bound report titled United Airlines Fleet Modernization Analysis, Confidential. Karen's knees nearly buckled. This wasn't just any Boeing employee. This was the man who likely had direct input on United's aircraft purchases, billions of dollars in contracts. Dr. Washington, she stammered, we didn't realize. Of course you didn't, Terrence replied calmly. You were too busy listening to assumptions instead of facts. The TikTok creator narrating for his followers could barely contain his excitement. Y'all, this man is a Boeing executive. She's been screaming at a Boeing executive. His comment section went absolutely insane. Such a United meltdown started trending alongside #United discrimination. A passenger near the windows called out, "This is going viral. CNN just picked up the hashtag." Another held up their phone. "Fox News is running it too. United employee screams at Boeing executive." Jessica's world was crumbling, but she couldn't accept it. I don't care who he says he is. He doesn't dress like an executive. And how exactly should an executive dress? Terrence asked quietly. The question hung in the air like an accusation. Everyone within earshot understood the implication. Jessica had judged him entirely on his appearance, his race, his casual clothing. A young professional woman in the crowd spoke up. I'm a VP at Microsoft. I wear jeans to work every day. Should I be screamed at too? That's different, Jessica protested weakly. How is it different? The woman pressed. Because I'm white? Because I'm blonde? Jessica had no answer. 2 minutes to final boarding, Monica announced weakly, though everyone had forgotten about the flight. Terrence pulled out his phone and speed-dialed a number. The call connected immediately. David, it's Terrence again. Yes, I'm still at gate 47. His voice carried clearly through the now silent crowd. I need you to patch me through to Scott Kirby's office. Karen felt the room spin. Scott Kirby, CEO of United Airlines. No, it can't wait. United Airlines staff at Chicago O'Hare have been, let's call it unprofessional, for the past 20 minutes. The crowd was dead silent now. Even the crying baby 3 gates over seemed to have quieted down. Everyone understood they were witnessing something extraordinary. Jessica finally began to understand the magnitude of what was happening. Wait, you actually work for Boeing? Not just work for, Terrence replied, phone still in his ear. I review strategic partnerships, including United's $8.2 billion aircraft order that we're discussing in today's board meeting. The number hit Jessica like a physical blow. $8.2 billion. More money than she could comprehend, and she'd been screaming at the man who had influence over that contract. Officer Rodriguez stepped completely away from Jessica, creating physical distance between himself and the situation. His radio had been crackling non-stop with updates from dispatch. Scott? Yes, it's Terrence Washington. I'm sorry to interrupt your morning, but I'm currently standing at Gate 47 in Chicago O'Hare, where your staff has spent 20 minutes refusing to let me board my flight. The Instagram Live viewer count hit 12,000. Comments poured in from across the country. News outlets were starting to pick up the hashtags. @Traveling Tasha read some comments aloud. This is insane. Fire her now. Boeing should cancel their contract. This man is a saint for staying so calm. What exactly happened? Terrence continued his call, looking directly at Jessica. Your flight attendant told me, and I quote, I can tell just by looking at you, this isn't your seat. Jessica's face had gone completely white. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Yes, Scott, there are quite a few witnesses. Several thousand, actually, watching live on social media right now. A business traveler nearby shook his head in disgust. I fly United every week for work. This is absolutely unacceptable. I'm switching to Delta after this, another passenger announced loudly. This is disgusting. Karen Williams realized her career was over. 15 years with United Airlines, and it was ending because she'd backed the wrong employee in the wrong situation against the wrong passenger. Monica Lane pulled up Terrence's frequent flyer profile on her computer. Elite status. Nearly 500,000 miles flown with United in the past 2 years alone. First-class passenger 90% of the time. Global Services member. How had they missed this? The computer system had all the information. His status, his travel patterns, his corporate account. Dr. Washington, Karen finally found her voice. I am so sorry. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Has there? Terrence asked, ending his call. Or has there been exactly the kind of treatment that you give to passengers who don't look like they belong in first class? The question was devastating in its simplicity. No one could answer it. A passenger called out, I saw this exact same thing happen to a black businessman in Dallas last month. Same airline. And I saw it in Atlanta, another added. United has a pattern. The crowd was turning. What had started as confusion was becoming anger, directed at United, at Jessica, at the systematic assumptions that had led to this moment. Jessica made one last, desperate attempt to salvage the situation. I was just doing my job, protecting the airline from fraud. By screaming at a passenger? Terrence asked quietly. By making assumptions based on the color of my skin and my clothing? By refusing to look at my boarding pass for 20 minutes? Each question hit like a hammer blow. The live stream audiences were getting a masterclass in professional dignity under pressure. The businessman with his laptop looked up from his screen. Dr. Washington, I've just posted this entire incident to LinkedIn. 60,000 views already. 15,000 on Instagram Live, @Traveling Tasha added. 10,000 on TikTok, the college student chimed in. And now it's on the evening news, another passenger said, holding up his phone showing a breaking news alert. Jessica sank into a nearby chair, the full weight of her actions finally hitting her. She'd humiliated herself in front of thousands of people, screamed at a Boeing executive, created a viral incident that would follow her forever. But Terrence wasn't finished. There's something else you should know, he said, reaching into his portfolio one more time. I also serve on United's Customer Advisory Board. Karen actually gasped audibly. The Customer Advisory Board reviewed complaint policies, discrimination procedures, and staff training programs. Which means, Terrence continued, I'll be writing a detailed report about today's incident for the quarterly board meeting next week. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a customer complaint. This was an internal review by someone with direct access to United's executive leadership. Jessica began to cry. Quiet tears at first, then increasing sobs as the magnitude of her career destruction became clear. Final boarding call for Flight 1947 to Seattle, Monica announced, though her voice was barely audible. Terrence picked up his portfolio and walked calmly toward the boarding bridge. He turned back one final time. For what it's worth, he said to Jessica, I hope you learn something from this, because the next person you judge might not be as patient as I was. The crowd parted silently as he walked to the bridge. The Boeing executive, the United Advisory Board member, the man they'd spent 20 minutes trying to keep out of first class. Behind him, the pieces of Jessica's career lay scattered across Gate 47 like debris from a plane crash. The aftermath hit Gate 47 like a corporate tsunami. Within minutes of Terrence boarding his flight, Karen Williams' radio exploded with calls from United's crisis management team. Gate 47, this is corporate security. We have a code red situation. Do not let any media personnel near the gate. Too late. The damage was already spreading faster than any containment protocol could handle. At Traveling Tasha's Instagram Live had peaked at 18,000 concurrent viewers before she ended the stream, but the recorded video was already being shared across every platform imaginable: TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit. The numbers were staggering and growing by the minute. Jessica sat slumped in a gate chair, her face buried in her hands. The weight of what she'd done was crushing her. 12 years with United Airlines, 12 years of exemplary service reviews, all destroyed in 20 minutes of assumptions and shouting. Karen's phone rang. The caller ID made her stomach drop. United Airlines Executive Office, Chicago. Karen Williams speaking. Ms. Williams, this is Janet Rodriguez from Corporate HR. We need you in the executive conference room immediately. Bring flight attendant Jessica Martinez. Ma'am, we're in the middle of... Now, Ms. Williams. The line went dead. Monica Lane was fielding calls at the gate counter. Local news stations, corporate communications. Even Boeing's public relations department had somehow gotten the gate's direct number. Gate 47, this is Monica. This is Sarah Carter from Boeing Corporate Communications. We understand one of our executives was mistreated by United staff at your location. We need a full incident report within the hour. Monica's hands shook as she typed notes. Boeing was asking for incident reports. United's largest aircraft supplier was officially involved. Officer Rodriguez received his own urgent radio call. Rodriguez, report to the Terminal Security Office immediately. The Federal Aviation Administration is requesting witness statements. The FAA. The situation had escalated beyond airline policy into federal oversight territory. As Jessica and Karen were escorted toward the executive offices, passengers continued documenting the aftermath. The gate area buzzed with conversations about what they'd witnessed. I can't believe she kept screaming at him even after seeing his Boeing ID, one passenger said to another. The man designs the planes we fly, and she treats him like a criminal, replied a business traveler, shaking his head. The LinkedIn post from the businessman had exploded to over 100,000 views. Comments poured in from airline industry professionals, Boeing employees, and civil rights advocates. One comment read, I work at Boeing Seattle. Dr. Washington is one of our most respected executives. This is absolutely unacceptable. Another, United Airlines just discriminated against the man who evaluates their aircraft purchases. Brilliant business strategy. In the United Airlines executive conference room, Karen and Jessica faced a panel they'd never expected to see. Janet Rodriguez from Corporate HR, Michael Thompson, Regional Operations Manager, and appearing via video conference from Chicago headquarters, David Carter, Senior Vice President of Customer Experience. Let me understand this correctly, David Carter said, his voice cutting through the conference room like ice. Dr. Terrence Washington, Senior VP at Boeing and member of our Customer Advisory Board, was prevented from boarding his first-class seat because flight attendant Martinez decided he didn't belong there? Jessica tried to speak. Sir, I was following security protocols. What security protocols require screaming at passengers? Carter interrupted. What protocols involve making assumptions based on appearance? Karen attempted damage control. Mr. Carter, Jessica was being cautious about potential seat upgrades. Dr. Washington flies over 400,000 miles annually with United. He's been a global services member for 8 years. His corporate account generates over $180,000 in annual revenue. What exactly was she being cautious about? The numbers hit the room like physical blows. $180,000 annually. From one passenger. One passenger they'd just humiliated in front of 18,000 live stream viewers. Janet Rodriguez opened a thick folder. Let's discuss the immediate consequences. The video has been viewed over 200,000 times across all platforms in the past hour. United's stock price has dropped 2.3% since the story broke. She continued reading from financial reports streaming in real time. Our social media engagement team reports 47,000 negative comments mentioning United Airlines. Hashtag United discrimination is trending in 12 countries. Michael Thompson pulled up another screen. Boeing's procurement team has already contacted our corporate partnerships department. Dr. Washington oversees our $8.2 billion aircraft modernization contract. Jessica's face went ashen. She finally understood the full magnitude. Not just her job, not just United's reputation, billions of dollars in business relationships. The Boeing contract includes diversity and inclusion compliance clauses, Thompson continued. Today's incident constitutes a potential breach of those terms. Karen felt the room spinning. Sir, surely one isolated incident wouldn't affect... One isolated incident? Carter's voice rose. We have preliminary reports of similar situations in Dallas, Atlanta, and Denver, all involving black passengers questioned about their seat assignments despite valid tickets. The pattern was emerging. What looked like Jessica's individual prejudice was revealing itself as a systemic problem across United's operations. Janet Rodriguez opened another file. Dr. Washington's preliminary report, submitted an hour ago, documents not just today's incident, but raises questions about company-wide training and bias recognition protocols. She read from the report. The systematic assumptions made by United staff suggest deeper institutional issues requiring immediate corporate intervention and policy reform. Jessica started crying again. I didn't know. I was just doing what I thought was right. Based on what? Carter asked pointedly. Based on his clothing? His race? What training did United provide that taught you to judge passengers by their appearance? The question hung in the air unanswered because everyone knew the truth. United hadn't trained Jessica to discriminate, but they also hadn't trained her not to. Thompson pulled up financial projections. Preliminary analysis suggests this incident could cost United between $12 to $15 million in immediate damage control, not including potential legal settlements or lost business relationships. The conference room fell silent. $15 million. From one flight attendant's 20-minute meltdown. Chen made the decision everyone saw coming. Ms. Martinez, your employment with United Airlines is terminated effective immediately. Your actions violated our Customer Service Standards Section 4.2, Professional Conduct Policy Section 7.8, and Federal Anti-Discrimination Guidelines Section 12.1. Jessica's sobs became audible. 12 years. Gone. Ms. Williams, you're suspended pending a full investigation into your handling of the situation. Your decision to support discriminatory actions and threaten a passenger with removal demonstrates failure of supervisory judgment. Karen's 15-year career hung by a thread, but Carter wasn't finished. More importantly, we're implementing immediate company-wide reforms. Effective Monday morning, all United customer-facing employees will undergo mandatory bias recognition training. He outlined the comprehensive response. New reporting protocols for discrimination complaints, monthly diversity audits, third-party oversight of passenger treatment policies. Janet Rodriguez added the legal implications. Dr. Washington has declined to pursue individual legal action. However, his Customer Advisory Board report will be presented to our Board of Directors next week. The room fell quiet as the full scope of consequences became clear. Thompson delivered the final corporate decision. Given Dr. Washington's position and the public nature of this incident, United Airlines will issue a formal public apology. We'll also announce the new anti-discrimination training program as a direct response to today's events. Jessica was escorted from the building 30 minutes later, her United Airlines badge and uniform confiscated. 12 years of service reduced to a cardboard box of personal items and a security escort to the parking garage. Meanwhile, Flight 1947 was cruising at 35,000 feet toward Seattle. Terrence Washington sat in Seat 2A, reviewing Boeing's quarterly partnership assessments. United Airlines' section would require significant revision after today's events. His phone buzzed with a text from Boeing CEO David Thompson. Heard about the Chicago incident. Board meeting moved to 4 p.m. to discuss United relationship implications. Terrence typed back, Understood. This wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. On the ground at O'Hare, the crisis management team worked frantically to contain the spreading damage. But some things couldn't be contained. The video was already being used in business schools as a case study in corporate crisis management. Civil rights organizations were citing it as evidence of persistent discrimination in the airline industry. Most importantly, thousands of people had witnessed what happened when assumptions met reality, when prejudice encountered power, when dignity triumphed over discrimination. The corporate showdown was over, but the real consequences were just beginning. 3 weeks after the Gate 47 incident, United Airlines' Chicago O'Hare terminal looked different. Not physically, but culturally. The changes were subtle yet profound. At every gate, small placards now displayed United's new Dignity First policy in both English and Spanish. Every passenger deserves respectful treatment regardless of appearance, background, or seat assignment. The mandatory bias recognition training had been completed by 847 Chicago-based United employees. The program, developed in partnership with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, focused on identifying unconscious assumptions before they became discriminatory actions. Monica Lane, now promoted to senior gate supervisor, reviewed the new protocols during her morning briefing. Remember, if you're uncertain about any passenger situation, the first step is always respectful dialogue. Ask questions. Don't make assumptions. The new reporting system had processed 73 discrimination complaints in its first 3 weeks. Each complaint triggered an immediate investigation and response within 48 hours. No more ignored incidents. No more swept-under-the-rug problems. Jessica Martinez had become an unintended symbol of workplace consequences. Her termination made headlines in aviation industry publications. United flight attendant fired for discriminating against Boeing executive ran in Aviation Week. Her LinkedIn profile remained suspended. Her aviation career effectively over. Industry colleagues reported that major airlines had quietly blacklisted her. The video of her screaming at Dr. Washington had become required viewing in customer service training programs across the industry. Karen Williams fared slightly better. After a month-long suspension and mandatory diversity counseling, she was reassigned to cargo operations. Her supervisory role was permanently revoked, but United allowed her to maintain employment in a reduced capacity. "I learned that assumptions can destroy careers," she admitted during her required counseling session. "I supported discrimination because I trusted appearances over evidence." The broader changes extended far beyond individual consequences. United's board of directors had mandated quarterly diversity audits for all major hubs. Third-party consultants now monitored passenger treatment patterns, looking for discriminatory trends before they became viral incidents. Dr. Terrence Washington's Customer Advisory Board report had triggered policy changes across United's entire network. The 127-page document detailed not just the Chicago incident, but systematic issues identified through data analysis of passenger complaints. His recommendations became company policy, mandatory de-escalation training, bias recognition workshops, and zero-tolerance enforcement of discrimination violations. More importantly, he had insisted on measurable accountability metrics. United now tracked and publicly reported diversity statistics quarterly. Passenger complaint resolution times, staff training completion rates, demographic analysis of passenger treatment incidents. The Boeing relationship had survived, but with new conditions. The $8.2 billion aircraft contract now included specific diversity compliance clauses. Boeing retained the right to audit United's passenger treatment policies as part of their partnership agreement. "Business relationships require shared values," Dr. Washington had written in his report. "Discrimination is incompatible with professional partnership." 3 months after the incident, the results were measurable. Discrimination complaints at Chicago O'Hare had dropped 89%. Passenger satisfaction scores among minority travelers had increased significantly. United's diversity metrics showed the highest improvement scores in the airline industry. The Instagram live video has been viewed over 2.8 million times across all platforms. It became a case study taught in business schools, law schools, and corporate training programs nationwide. Harvard Business School featured it in their crisis management curriculum. The Gate 47 incident. When assumptions meet accountability became required, reading for MBA students studying workplace discrimination and corporate response strategies. More importantly, the video inspired policy changes beyond United Airlines. Delta, American, and Southwest all implemented enhanced bias training programs, citing the Chicago incident as motivation for proactive reform. The Federal Aviation Administration used Dr. Washington's experience to develop new passenger rights guidelines. The Department of Transportation issued updated discrimination reporting requirements for all commercial airlines. Real change had emerged from 20 minutes of injustice. 6 months later, Dr. Washington returned to Chicago O'Hare for a business trip. He approached Gate 47 deliberately, curious about the atmosphere. The gate area was busy with typical airline activity: passengers boarding, families traveling, business people checking emails. A young black businessman in casual clothing approached the first-class boarding line. The flight attendant, a middle-aged white woman, smiled professionally. "Good afternoon, sir. May I see your boarding pass?" He handed it over. She scanned it quickly and smiled again. "Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You're in seat 3A today. Welcome aboard." No assumptions, no judgments, no drama, just professional service. Dr. Washington observed from nearby, satisfied. The changes were working. Not perfectly, but measurably. His phone buzzed with a text from United's CEO. 6-month diversity metrics show 94% improvement across all hubs. Thank you for making us better. He typed back, "The goal was never punishment. It was progress." The transformation wasn't complete. Bias and discrimination couldn't be eliminated overnight. But systems had changed, policies had evolved, people had learned. Most importantly, the next passenger who faced discriminatory treatment would find a company prepared to respond with accountability rather than excuses. The Gate 47 incident had ended with Jessica's career destruction. But it had begun something more valuable: institutional change that would protect thousands of future travelers from similar humiliation. Sometimes, justice looks like consequences. Sometimes it looks like prevention. In this case, it looked like both. 1 year after the Gate 47 incident, Dr. Terrence Washington reflected on how 20 minutes of discrimination had created waves of change that continued rippling across the aviation industry and beyond. The numbers told a powerful story. United Airlines' diversity metrics had improved by 127% system-wide. Other major airlines reported similar improvements after implementing programs inspired by the Chicago incident. The Federal Aviation Administration's new passenger rights guidelines had been adopted by over 200 airports nationwide. But the most meaningful changes couldn't be measured in statistics. Thousands of airline employees had completed bias recognition training. Millions of passengers now traveled with greater confidence that discriminatory treatment would face swift consequences. These real-life stories of progress emerged from one man's decision to respond to injustice with dignity rather than anger. Dr. Washington had received over 15,000 messages from people sharing their own experiences of workplace discrimination and travel bias. Many were touching stories of individuals who had found courage to speak up after watching his calm response to Jessica's aggressive behavior. "Your example showed me that strength isn't about fighting back," wrote a young black professional. "It's about maintaining your principles while demanding better." The incident had become more than a viral video. It had evolved into a case study taught in universities, a training tool used by corporations, and an inspiration for civil rights advocates worldwide. These black stories of resilience and systematic change demonstrated the power of leveraging professional influence for social progress. Jessica Martinez had attempted to rebuild her career outside aviation. Her story served as a cautionary tale about the permanent consequences of workplace discrimination. Industry publications continued using her termination as an example of zero-tolerance enforcement. The broader lesson resonated beyond airline gates. Corporate America had taken notice. Companies across industries implemented enhanced bias training programs, citing the United incident as motivation for proactive reform rather than reactive damage control. Dr. Washington's approach had proven that intellectual strategy often achieved more than legal battles. By leveraging business relationships and corporate accountability measures, he had created systematic change that protected countless future travelers from similar humiliation. His quiet leadership style had inspired a new model for addressing discrimination. Document everything, maintain dignity, use professional leverage strategically, and focus on prevention rather than punishment. The Gate 47 video continued generating discussions about implicit bias, professional conduct, and the importance of witness documentation. Social media had transformed a single incident into a movement for institutional accountability. Most importantly, the story demonstrated that every person has the power to create change, regardless of their position or background. Whether through recording injustice, speaking up for others, or simply treating everyone with basic human dignity. The transformation from a moment of humiliation into lasting reform proved that Black soul stories of perseverance could reshape entire industries when courage met strategy and dignity conquered discrimination. Your voice matters in creating change. Have you witnessed discrimination in airports, workplaces, or public spaces? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might inspire the next wave of positive change. Take action today. Share this video to raise awareness about the ongoing fight against workplace bias. Subscribe to Black Soul Stories for more inspiring accounts of resilience, professional excellence, and systematic change. Support businesses that demonstrate genuine commitment to equality through policies, not just promises. Remember, sometimes the most powerful response to discrimination isn't raising your voice. It's maintaining your dignity while demanding that institutions raise their standards. Join our community of changemakers. Subscribe now for stories that matter.